The phone buzzing at midnight never brings good news. I learned that lesson when my father had his heart attack 3 years ago. Tonight, staring at the unknown number on my screen, I almost let it go to voicemail. Almost. Darren, this is Jovie Cauldron. The voice was shaky, desperate. My wife's sister-in-law. We'd met maybe 5 times at family gatherings, exchanged pleasantries over potato salad and beer. Jovie, what's wrong? It's past midnight. Your wife is with my husband right now, at the Sunset Motel on Route 9. The words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. I sat up in bed, suddenly wide awake. The empty space beside me where Ayla should have been sleeping felt like a crater. What are you talking about? But even as I asked, pieces clicked into place. Ayla's late nights at work, her sudden interest in yoga classes, the new perfume. I followed Kevin tonight. They're in room 237. I'm sitting in the parking lot right now and I can see his truck. My mind raced through a dozen emotions before settling on cold anger. Are you sure? I've been suspicious for weeks. Tonight I finally got proof. I was already pulling on jeans, grabbing a jacket. Stay there, I'm coming. What are we going to do? Document everything. If we're doing this, we're doing it right. The drive to the Sunset Motel took 23 minutes through empty streets. I found Jovie sitting in a beat-up Honda Civic, crying into a tissue. She looked older than I remembered, worn down by whatever she'd discovered about her marriage. I tapped on her window. She rolled it down, eyes red and puffy. There, she pointed to a silver pickup truck parked near the far end of the motel. Room 237. The Sunset Motel was exactly what you'd expect from a place that rented rooms by the hour. Peeling paint, flickering neon sign, the kind of establishment that minded its own business. Perfect for affairs, apparently. You have your phone? I asked. Jovie nodded, pulling out an iPhone with a cracked screen. Good. We're going to record everything. Video, photos, timestamps. Make sure the license plates are visible. We walked across the parking lot like we belonged there. The night air was cold, cutting through my jacket. Room 237 had light seeping around the edges of thick curtains. Kevin's truck sat there like evidence of betrayal, license plate clearly visible under the security lights. Through a gap in the curtains, we could see shadows moving inside. 2 figures, intimate and careless. My wife of 8 years and this man I barely knew, acting like teenagers who thought they were invisible. Jovie filmed everything while I took photos. The truck, the room number, the silhouettes in the window. Cold documentation of hot betrayal. How long has this been going on? I whispered. I think months, maybe longer. Kevin's been working late, taking mysterious phone calls. Sound familiar? It did. Ayla had been distant for months, always busy, always tired. I'd attributed it to stress at her insurance job. Apparently, I was wrong about the source of that stress. We gathered our evidence and retreated to our cars. As we prepared to leave, my phone buzzed with a text from Ayla. Working late again. Don't wait up. I showed the message to Jovie through our car windows. She shook her head in disgust. What now? She asked. Now we plan our next move carefully. This ends tomorrow. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I didn't sleep. Instead, I spent the hours before dawn making phone calls and arrangements. First call was to Ms. Franklin, the divorce attorney Tony from work had recommended after his own messy split. I need to see you first thing this morning, I told her voicemail. I have video evidence of adultery, and I need to move fast. Second call was to the bank. Third was to a locksmith. Fourth was to Tony, asking him to meet me at the house with his truck. By 7 a.m., I was executing what I privately called the surgical strike. Ayla came home at 6:30, looking guilty and exhausted. She found me sitting at the kitchen table with coffee and a manila folder. You're up early, she said, not meeting my eyes. Couldn't sleep. Funny thing happened last night. I got a call from Jovie Cauldron. The color drained from Ayla's face. She opened her mouth, probably to lie, but I held up my hand. Before you say anything, you should know I have video of you and Kevin at the Sunset Motel. Time-stamped, clear images, everything a divorce court would want to see. She tried the denial route first. That's impossible. I was at work. I slid a printed photo across the table. Her and Kevin's silhouettes in the motel window, his truck in the parking lot, the room number clearly visible. Try again. Then came the anger. You followed me? You had me watched. I documented your adultery. There's a difference. She switched to bargaining. Darren, we can work this out. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. You're right about one thing. It was definitely a mistake. The locksmith arrived at 8:30. While Ayla was in the shower, I had every lock in the house changed. Tony showed up with his truck, and we loaded Ayla's belongings into garbage bags and boxes. This seems harsh, man, Tony said, though he kept loading. She made her choice. Now she gets to live with it. When Ayla came downstairs, her suitcases were by the front door, and I was holding a new set of keys. What is this? This is you moving out. Today. The joint checking account has been frozen pending divorce proceedings. I've changed all the passwords on our shared accounts. Your clothes and personal items are packed. You can't just throw me out of my own house. Actually, I can. The house is in my name only. Check the deed. That was true. We'd bought the house with money from my father's life insurance policy, and the mortgage was solely in my name. Ayla had never bothered to read the paperwork carefully. She tried tears next, then threats, then more bargaining. Nothing worked. By noon, she was gone, staying with her sister across town and calling me every hour with new demands and accusations. I ignored most of the calls. The important ones went to my attorney, who was already preparing divorce papers based on adultery with photographic evidence. This is pretty cut and dried, Ms. Franklin told me during our afternoon meeting. With this evidence, she'll have a hard time claiming any significant assets. Good. What about Kevin? That's between him and his wife, but I'd guess he's having a similar day. She was right. Jovie called that evening to update me. She'd served Kevin with divorce papers and emptied their joint savings account. His plumbing business was in both their names, which meant she owned half of it. How are you holding up? I asked. Better than I expected. Angry, but better. What about Ayla? She's threatening to fight this, claims the video is fake, that we're conspiring against them. Let her try. We have timestamps, metadata, everything. That night, alone in my house for the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. The constant tension I'd been living with, the feeling that something was wrong but not knowing what, was finally gone. The family group chat exploded the next morning. Jovie had sent the photos to her mother, who'd forwarded them to her sisters, who'd shared them with their daughters. Within hours, everyone in both extended families knew about the affair. My phone buzzed constantly with messages of support, outrage, and gossip. Ayla's phone was probably doing the same thing, but with different emotions attached. Can't believe she did this to you, texted my cousin Mike. Always thought something was off about her, wrote Aunt Patricia. Kevin's a piece of garbage, added Jovie's sister Lisa. The social media aspect was brutal. Someone had posted the motel photos on Facebook, tagged everyone in both families. Ayla's reputation was being destroyed in real time, one comment at a time. She tried damage control, posting her own version of events. Claims that the marriage had been over for months, that we'd been separated, that the photos were taken out of context. Nobody believed her. The breaking point came when she showed up at my house Tuesday evening, demanding to be let in. "This is still my home," she shouted from the front porch. "Not according to the law," I replied through the door. "You can't keep me from my own things. Your things are at your sister's house. Everything else belongs to me." She started pounding on the door, screaming about lawyers and rights and how I'd regret this. Mrs. Gibbons from next door came out to watch the show, phone in hand, recording everything. "You're making a scene," I told Ayla through the door. "The whole neighborhood is watching." "I don't care. Let me in." Not happening. She eventually left, but not before Mrs. Gibbons had captured the entire meltdown on video. By morning, that video was circulating through the same family group chats as the motel photos. Kevin was having his own problems. His plumbing business depended on referrals and reputation. Word of the affair was spreading through town, and customers were canceling appointments. Jovie was freezing business accounts and demanding a full audit of the company finances. "He's been moving money around," Jovie told me during one of our strategy calls, "transferring funds to an account I didn't know about." "In whose name?" "That's the interesting part. It's a joint account with Ayla." That revelation changed everything. This wasn't just an affair, it was theft. Kevin had been stealing from his own business to fund whatever lifestyle he and my wife were planning. "How much money are we talking about?" $37,000 over 6 months. I felt my anger crystallize into something colder and more focused. They hadn't just betrayed their spouses, they'd been planning to rob us blind. "We need to document this," I said. "Already on it. I've got bank statements, transfer records, everything." "Good, because now we're not just getting divorced. We're going to destroy them." Ayla and Kevin tried fighting back, but they were outgunned and outmaneuvered. Their first attempt was pathetic. Kevin showed up at the steel plant where I work, trying to intimidate me in the parking lot. "You need to back off," he said, stepping out of his truck as I walked to my car after the evening shift. "Or what?" "Or things might get complicated for you," I laughed. "More complicated than finding out my wife is sleeping with a thief." That money was mine. Ayla was helping me manage business expenses. By hiding $37,000 in a secret account? Try explaining that to the IRS. Kevin's face went red. He was bigger than me, but I'd been working steel for 15 years. My hands were harder, and I was angrier. "You think you're smart," he said. "Compared to you?" "Definitely." He took a step toward me, then seemed to think better of it. The plant parking lot was full of my coworkers heading home. If he started something here, it would end badly for him. Instead, he got back in his truck and peeled out, leaving rubber on the asphalt and confirming what everyone already knew about his character. Their second attempt was more creative but equally stupid. Ayla tried to break into the house while I was at work, bringing a locksmith and claiming she lived there. I'd expected something like this, so I'd installed security cameras the day before. My phone buzzed with motion alerts, just as she was trying to convince the locksmith to open my front door. I called the locksmith directly. "This is Darren Hale. That's my house you're about to break into." "Sir, this lady says she lives here." "She's my ex-wife. She doesn't live here anymore, and she has no legal right to enter. If you open that door, you're committing breaking and entering." The locksmith left. Ayla stood on my porch screaming at his retreating van, then at the security camera she'd finally noticed. I saved that footage too. Their third attempt was the dumbest yet. Kevin tried to get me fired by calling my supervisor and claiming I'd been stealing from the company. The accusation was so obviously false and vindictive that it backfired completely. "Your brother-in-law called," my boss told me the next morning. "Wanted to report you for theft. I told him we've got cameras everywhere, and you're one of our most trusted employees." Then I asked him why he was really calling. What did he say? Started ranting about his wife and divorce and some kind of conspiracy. I hung up on him. By the end of the week, Kevin and Ayla were desperate. Their reputations were ruined, their finances were frozen, and their legal options were limited. They'd been exposed as cheaters and thieves, and the whole town was watching their downfall. That's when they made their final, fatal mistake. The trap was Jovie's idea. They're meeting at Kevin's apartment downtown. she told me Friday evening. The one I didn't know about until this week. How do you know? I've been watching him. He thinks he's being sneaky, but he's terrible at it. Kevin had been renting a luxury apartment across town for months, apparently as a love nest for his affair with Ayla. It was another expense he'd hidden from Jovie, another lie in a growing pile of deceptions. What do you want to do? End this. Once and for all. We planned it carefully. Jovie would call Kevin and suggest a meeting to discuss divorce terms. She'd tell him to bring Ayla, claiming she wanted to clear the air with everyone present. Meanwhile, I'd gather our allies. Tony agreed to help, along with Jovie's sister Lisa and my cousin Mike. We weren't planning violence, just overwhelming social pressure and public humiliation. Saturday evening, we positioned ourselves in the apartment building's lobby. The place was expensive, the kind of building Kevin couldn't afford on a plumber's salary. More evidence of his financial crimes. Ayla and Kevin arrived together, looking nervous but hopeful. They thought Jovie was ready to negotiate, maybe even reconcile. They were wrong. "Hello, Kevin," Jovie said as they entered the lobby. "Ayla." "Thanks for agreeing to meet," Kevin said. "I think we can work this out reasonably." "Oh, we're definitely going to work this out." That's when Tony, Mike, Lisa, and I stepped out from behind the lobby's decorative pillars. Kevin's face went white. Ayla looked like she might run. "What is this?" Ayla demanded. "This is accountability," I said. We'd brought everything. Bank statements showing the secret transfers, photos from the motel, screenshots of their text messages that Jovie had recovered from Kevin's phone, a complete record of their lies and theft. "You stole from your own business to fund this apartment," Jovie told Kevin, her voice steady and cold. "You stole from your family to pay for your affair." "That's not how it was," Kevin protested. $37,000 says otherwise." Ayla tried her usual tactics: tears, denials, accusations that we were the ones being unreasonable. None of it worked. We had too much evidence, and she had no credibility left. "This is harassment," she finally said. "This is justice," Mike replied. The building's security guard had been watching our confrontation with interest. When Kevin tried to push past us toward the elevator, the guard stepped in. "I'm going to need to see some ID and proof of residency," he told Kevin. Kevin fumbled for his wallet, but the guard was already suspicious. A man who couldn't afford this apartment, accompanied by people accusing him of theft, trying to access a unit he probably shouldn't have. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." "I live here." "Not anymore," Jovie said, producing legal documents. "As of today, I'm freezing all assets pending divorce proceedings. That includes this apartment you rented with stolen money." Kevin's world collapsed in real time. No apartment, no secret account, no business, no wife, no reputation, just the consequences of his choices, delivered by the people he'd betrayed. Ayla wasn't in much better shape. Her sister had kicked her out after seeing the bank records. Her job was in jeopardy after her public meltdowns became office gossip. Her friends had abandoned her and her family was disgusted. "This isn't over," she told me, as security escorted them from the building. "Yes, it is." And it was. Standing in that lobby, surrounded by people who'd supported me through the worst betrayal of my life, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Peace. The cheaters had been exposed, the thieves had been caught, and justice had been served. Not through violence or illegal revenge, but through truth, evidence, and the natural consequences of their own actions. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting people see who someone really is.